Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Board YouTube channel for the weekly NBA's Takeaway Show that goes live every Thursday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time with myself, Jacob Gramegna, and my co-host here, Kirk Evans. And we have a bit of a loaded episode today. Excited to get into some of these topics. We're going to be discussing the controversy surrounding Mikal Bridges and Cam Thomas and their minutes in yesterday's game against the Milwaukee Bucks and the betting implications that resulted from it. We're going to be talking about the struggles of the Phoenix Suns, who, despite having a super team in place here with Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal when he's healthy, are only 15-15 and sit 10th in the Western Conference. We'll talk about why that is the case, and we'll also be discussing the Boston Celtics, who are surging at the top of the NBA standings. Can anybody compete with this team? But before we get into those topics, and before perhaps we get into some betting at the end of the episode, we want to remind you guys to smash that like button to support the content that we provide you on the Board HQ, the NBA content division of the Hammerbed Network, and subscribe because we have this show every Thursday. But on top of that, we also have the weekday morning show with myself and Pips for NBA Free Picks. All right, Kirk Evans, we'll go over to you. Slight introduction before we talk about Bridges. How was the holiday period for yourself? Merry Christmas if you celebrate. That's my first time seeing you since then. But how was the holiday period for yourself?
Holiday period was good. I got to be honest. I haven't been doing anything too different than I normally. I've honestly been working every day, but it's been a fun time. I thought the Christmas Day games were good. But yeah, nothing special, but happy holidays to you as well and all the listeners.
All right, let's get into our first topic here. I will say that it's been an understatement to say you were vocal about this one online. Mikal Bridges got rested in yesterday's game against the Bucks. However, Mikal Bridges is on a bit of an Iron Man streak, so he doesn't rest games. However, he does play only the first quarter sometimes in games. That was the case against the Milwaukee Bucks. It was a weird one because it was a close game, but obviously the intention was to rest Bridges and Cam Thomas. They did not play for the second, third, and fourth quarter. I assure you they are good enough to play in those minutes. And the news of the Nets resting players pregame was a hint to some people, not everyone, but to some people, that Bridges and Thomas, or more so Bridges, would only be playing a very early part of the game because he's done this previously. So this became a very sizable edge for some sports bettors to take advantage of. However, there is debate regarding if you should share this to obviously boost your social profile, share it with your followers. You look good because you're sharing this massive edge with your followers. But this does, however, take away from pro bettors who are working hard to maximize their outs on something like this. And I would imagine, Kirk Evans, this is your side of the situation as well.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of angles to touch here. So first, I just kind of want to break down actually what happened yesterday.
Okay.
At 12:50, Dinwiddie, Claxton, Cam Johnson out, Finney Smith questionable. And also, as I tell this story, I might come off as a little bit braggy here, but this is just what happened. When that tweet came out, the second it came out, I said we need to take Mikal Bridges alt unders to my partner. At 1:03, Mikal Bridges props came up. I did my absolute best to get as much as humanly possible down on Mikal Bridges unders. By 1:48, the edge was gone. His lines came out later, whatever. DraftKings didn't let you same game parlay. You could have gone out at ESPN bet. But the real edge was gone by 150. And look, I'm tilted on Twitter tweeting about it. It's not because I didn't get the bet. This was one of the biggest wins I've ever had in sports betting. And not only that, I actually bet this last year as well. When Bridges, everyone was resting with the exact same situation. So I was well aware of this edge. Look, and I get it. Everyone can do whatever they want. But right now, the framing on Twitter is that this guy tweeted out this Bridges because he's such a good guy and wanted everyone to win. He's a tout who sells picks. But not only that, he just didn't know how big of an advantage he had. Like, he said there was a 30% chance Bridges didn't play after the first quarter. Like, if he thought that there was a 30% chance Bridges didn't play after the first quarter, that is, you could have gotten lines at 100 to 1, 70 to 1 for essentially a 30% chance. So whatever, an implied probability of like 1.5%, and he's betting at 30%. I actually agreed with him. I was going throughout the day, 25, 30% he doesn't play. I got more confident throughout the day. And look, it wasn't just him, and I don't think he was the only reason it got taken off the board. Establish the Run, who's like a way bigger service than this, whatever, DK, whoever on Twitter, also released Bridges under points in that time frame as well, which, to be honest, I thought was pretty egregious as well. I think the disconnect between, and look, I'm happy some people saw that tweet and won a few $100s. I think the big disconnect is the degree of that edge. You know, like if that edge was out there for an hour longer, 2 hours longer, there would be pros who made unbelievable amounts of money, and it just becomes a little frustrating. I don't care. It is his right, but I also just think it's my right to make fun of someone for doing something, in my opinion, that was insanely stupid. And let's stop pretending like he's Robin Hood and taking from the rich and giving to the poor. He made a horrible decision. He doesn't realize what the opportunity was, and he screwed it up, and then he screwed it up for a lot of other people. So I don't see why. Maybe I phrased my tweet a little aggressively, but look, I mean, he did something stupid, and if you do something stupid, you deserve to be flamed for it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I talked about this this morning with Pips as well. He's somebody who very much was also trying to maximize his spots on the unders for Bridges in particular. And his argument is that these people who would share something like this are, and you touched this as well, more, let's say, recreational bettors who don't really have the full grasp of the gravity of a situation like this. So if you're anybody out there watching, listening, whatever, if you find an edge on something, there is somebody who also has that edge who is absolutely pounding it as much as they possibly can. Like, it's almost impossible for you to find some hidden edge that nobody else in the world is aware of. So just keep that in mind when you find something like this. There is somebody taking advantage of it. That being said, I think for anybody to frame it as I just care about people winning the most money while they're actively like selling. Look, I don't want to start a war here, but like, you do it to sell picks. This is like a personal promotion thing. And, look, you find something that's going to get you a ton of buzz, which it did. It's going to help you sell your picks. That's cool. But maybe don't frame it like you're trying to help people. You're helping yourself at the end of the day.
Yes. But also the idea that by 112. He tweeted it at 112. Mikal Bridges lines repopulated at 103. The idea that this guy, unless he's like unbelievably liquid with accounts, which I highly doubt, the idea that this guy maximized his opportunity in 9 minutes is under 0%. Like, there is just no chance he maximized this bet with 9 minutes. Like, okay, if you want to tweet it out, get buzz, fine. But like, just doing it in such it's a sickness that people care more about a few Twitter likes than making, and without an exaggeration, he could have made more money yesterday than that tout service will ever pay him in his entire life. There is a scenario, look, obviously you can't bet endlessly because it wasn't 100%. But if he was 100% on it, and I say this without any joke, he could have made enough money to not work for years. And he decided to tweet it out 9 minutes after it came out. And look, whatever, it's his life. He does what he wants. But yeah, let's stop pretending this Robin Hood thing. And also, this is another thing that's really been annoying me on Twitter. People are like, tweeting out edges. You're allowed tweeting out edges. This isn't an edge. Like, there are edges, you can find that are there, small. You can grind them, make a bit of money. Sure. The Draymond Green thing happened when he fouled out. That was one. That's 2 years ago. That was by far the biggest case. I missed that. I swear to God, I've thought about Draymond Green's alt unders for 2 years straight every day. Every day I think about it. Then there was Mikal Bridges last year, and then there was Mikal Bridges this year. I can't think of another example of a money-making opportunity where you can, get 100 to 1 odds at a bet that was whatever, 30, 40% to hit. So, yeah, let's stop pretending that this was just some normal edge. Could happen in other sports. I talk to a lot of pros, and I follow the NBA every day. These things just never come around. I would bet that this might never happen again. It definitely won't happen for Bridges. So this idea of, he tweeted out an edge like it's an assist prop. Like, no one's making $1 million off an assist prop. This is a once a year proposition, maybe. And as the years go by, this won't exist anymore. So let's stop pretending that it was just this little thing. Like, I saw someone be like, this is like a cheap way to make money. If you have a fresh DraftKings account, they will take any amount of money on a same game parlay.
Cheap way to make money. Like, money's money if you can make it.
So, yeah, it is what it is. Honestly, considering how mad I'm getting about it, and I got down, thank God I started taking these bets essentially seconds after they got posted, because I would have been so mad if I wasn't able to
I'll say, so I was not privy to this. Like, I was wrapped up yesterday, so I had no following of this. So when I saw, NBA post Bridges not playing second half, I was just kind of scrambling, like, what the hell is going on here? So I have no dog in this fight or whatever. From my perspective, look, somebody is obviously trying to grow their own brand. That's look, power to them. They're working on their own brand and whatever. It is what it is. Like, I can't fault somebody for doing that. But perhaps I think that this is a good educational thing for people. I think this is good for next time. Look, if this is something you're picking up on, or if there is an edge like this, like I remember, not getting into specifics, there was a big monster edge at a certain sports book in college football playoffs last season that I knew 5 people were aware of, and perhaps maybe 5 more that I knew of. Who knows how many other people? There was an error on a sports book. I did not tell anybody this information. I played this as much as I could under the current circumstances. Eventually, it got picked up on, and I lost it. But if you find an edge like this, you absolutely blast it until you're no longer allowed to do so. And that's just how you should treat yourself as a sports bettor. Like, look, I get it. People out there don't have access to this information. So, if you're another big one, Super Bowl national anthems every year, that information gets out. And look, it sucks because 99% of people, 99.9% of people will not have access to that until some big person tweets it out, which they will every year. But these edges, these people are pros because they hold on to this information and they can pound an edge like that. That is what makes a pro bettor. It's not about winning. It's not about winning on bets. It's about having the most outs to absolutely pound edges like this. That is how you become a pro sports bettor.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And again, if you had tweeted it at 5 o'clock or something like that, that's one thing. But 12 minutes after it got posted, 12 minutes. He waited 12 minutes. I would be not surprised if he didn't bet it before he tweeted.
Right.
So look, it is what it is. You're allowed to do whatever you want. But again, people say you're allowed to do whatever you want. I'm allowed to criticize that. If I think you did something stupid, I'm allowed to criticize. The idea that
go ahead.
Again, if people are like, oh, he's allowed to do it. He told the people he doesn't care that much about money, blah, 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 blah. If he had, let's say, $100,000 in front of him and 50 Twitter likes, so 500 Twitter likes, and he could pick the 500 Twitter likes and the $100,000 gets burned on fire, and he picked the Twitter likes, no one would say. It won't be
100K. Like the risk tolerance here, it wasn't a sure thing.
Okay, fine, but but you could have gotten 40-1.
That's true. You didn't have to risk too much to get a massive payout.
$2,000 on 40-1. This guy has a tout service. If he's thinks it's 30% chance Bridges doesn't play after the first quarter, and he's getting 40-1, 50-1. If you had like a $50,000 bankroll, Kelly would say bet over $2,000 on this. So, okay, fine. Let's say $50,000. Let's say $50,000 in front of him or 500 Twitter likes, and he went full Joker and threw gasoline on the money and set it on fire. No one would say, "Oh, he was just helping." Oh, but he could take 1,000 of those dollars and pass them out to people he doesn't know online. No one would say, "Oh, this guy's so great." They would say, "Take the money and check your ego a little bit."
Yeah, you know what would have been actually better for everybody is if he had just pounded the edge and then given away money to his followers after the fact.
Wait, like you see,
he would have gotten more, and they would have gotten more.
And people are like, "Oh, it was up for hours. It was up for hours." Okay, yeah, ESPN bet had his props up for a few hours. Like, you can't get down actual money at ESPN bet, and they don't really have like extreme alts like DraftKings does. Caesars, you could parlay like turnovers and steals and blocks and threes and points and rebounds and assists. Like that's how you need to get to the highest odds to really take advantage of that edge, because it doesn't like 24.5 points or 21.5 points. If he's only playing a quarter, it doesn't actually matter. So it was just a pretty ridiculous situation. And I'm sad that, I was starting to send it out to people I know, close people to me, who I normally send stuff to, who send stuff to me. And I'm sad that they weren't really able to get down on it. So yeah, it is what it is. Look, I'm a selfish person, just like everyone else. Everyone's self-interested. But let's stop pretending, he's Robin Hood.
All right. So obviously your stance is that like the people who share that are in the wrong. For me, it's tough for me to say that. I don't think either party's necessarily in the wrong. If I had to choose a side, I'd be on the side. Look, like if your goal is just to boost your following, then so be it. Like you're going to share that. So look, it is what it is there.
I don't think it's right or wrong. I don't think he's wrong for tweeting it or wanting to boost his follower account. I just think it's funny that people are framing it like he had this choice and decided, "Oh, I'm going to tweet it." He was dumb and didn't realize how much money he could make.
Okay, so you're more mad that like if you're smart, you'll play this to the max.
He just did something stupid and should be whatever. You're allowed doing something stupid as well, but he did something stupid. Let's stop pretending like he made this choice. He didn't realize the options that were available to him. And again, we're not talking about a random guy who found this, who generally bets $10. He charges people for betting advice. So like he should have been able to recognize that.
Yeah.
Let's stop pretending that that's not what happened, because that's 100%.
I understand there. Here's Jamrock kicks in. I couldn't get any Bridges lines because I never saw them open. And they rest Cam Thomas well for no reason. Even though they played, yeah. Some people got Cam Thomas numbers as well, which was an interesting wrinkle because Bridges was the one that people hammered.
I had a alt under parlay, Cam Thomas, Royce O'Neal, Dennis Smith Jr. I got Dennis Smith Jr. wrong.
Oh, he had a big game. That was the one.
Yeah, because again, if you look last year, they also rested the other starter, so I thought it was possible. But
yeah, understood. So there, it's not exactly a foolproof strategy necessarily. Something, but I understand. Yes, I understand both sides. All right, we spent a long time on this. Let's actually get into some actual basketball topics a little bit here. I have graphics up, but they're not they're for some reason not actually displaying on YouTube correctly. But one thing we do want to talk about here is the Phoenix Suns, who have struggled here. Yeah, I'm monitoring YouTube right now. For some reason on the streaming end, it looks fine, but when it's actually going to YouTube, there's an issue. So apologies for the lack of graphics today, anybody watching. But we want to talk about the Phoenix Suns. They are 15-15 on the season. Things seemed a little bit worse after the Christmas Day drubbing at the hands of Luka Doncic, particularly in Kevin Durant's camp, because hasn't been at his absolute KD best. But I think it's his demeanor on court that is concerning people. And it's right to concern people after less than a year ago forcing his way out of his previous team and kind of becoming a theme for Kevin Durant. But 15-15 for a team that was one of the favorites to win the NBA championship at the start of the season. This team right now is worrying about making the playoffs in a very highly competitive Western Conference. I know Beal hasn't been completely healthy, but what do you think is really going wrong with Phoenix right now?
Yeah, well, Kevin Durant and Harden are really playing ping pong with just being dissatisfied with circumstances.
Yes.
It's every day. I couldn't believe that the Kevin Durant is like frustrated in Phoenix.
I could believe it. I could believe it.
Fair. It's just wild to me how often this is happening. Like, I like Durant, but geez, this is crazy. I don't think it's all that shocking that they're struggling because like we saw last year, they didn't do a very good job of beating the Clippers with no Kawhi, and they got absolutely destroyed by Denver. So I think that Beal's been out. They're a team that's super shallow past those top three guys, and essentially they need to out-skill guys with those top three, and they just haven't had three guys. Once Beal comes in, players really kind of fall more into place. Eric Gordon's kind of your fifth best player. Nurk is kind of your fourth best player. That being said, I still don't really think they're a contender either way because I don't think Beal is all that good. But I think like the idea that they're struggling isn't all that surprising because the guy they brought in to help them hasn't played essentially all year. I also will say there's been a lot of Kevin Durant's overrated talk on Twitter, and I do kind of agree. I think he's an unbelievable player, but he just never really gets to the rim anymore. And he is kind of unstoppable with that 2-point pull-up, and it is so effective. But the thing about that 2-point pull-up is it doesn't draw any help. No, you don't need to send a second defender because it just doesn't really do anything. So the other kind of apex stars in the league, even Booker, they put pressure on the rim. They will play in the pick and roll game in that spot up three, cause a lot of room. But Durant, he's a spectacular player and still is, even though he's 35. But he's really fallen off as a rim attacker and rim finisher. And it just slightly puts him below those other apex offensive players because he's not generating quite as much for other players because they aren't running, double teams at.
Yeah, the Beal thing, one argument against that is like you knew Beal had injury problems. You knew this was a possibility. This is why there was also some debate as to their candidacy to be a contender when the trade happened. But for Kevin Durant, I think you're kind of spot on there. Obviously, when Kevin Durant's at his best hitting jump shots, he's unstoppable. But when he's not, he looks mortal. He looks human. He's not, like you said, if he can't get to the rim, he can't hit his jump shots in mid-range, then there's not a lot else that he's going to be providing consistently to the game. He's not drawing in those defenders. He doesn't have those kick-out opportunities. So I definitely agree with that one. And for the Suns, like even when Beal's back, how good do you think this team is going to look? Like, do you think they'll be one of the best in the West when Beal is back even?
I honestly think they'll be pretty good. Like, clearly the framework of this team is have two of those A+ offensive players. I guess Beal's probably like an A- offensive player. Have two of them on at all time, and when all three are on, be by far the best offense in the league. And when you take one of those guys off, it just is going to hurt a lot. So I'm not so sure. I wouldn't bet on them to be like the best team in the West or really come out of the West when Beal's back. And it's funny because I would never think I'd be the one defending Bradley Beal. I've been so low on him for so long. But as your third best offensive guy, he is really good offensively. Hopefully they can just jack up the threes a little bit too when he's back because they still take so many mid-range twos. Then, maybe they could become a top 3 offense when he's back and be really good. But they're kind of in the West morass when Beal's back. Like, they're obviously worse than Denver. They're probably worse than the Clippers. Probably a little worse than the Lakers. Probably around, worse than Minnesota for sure. Could get to like around what OKC is right now. But the West is really just, there aren't any teams that are particularly scary. So if I'm Phoenix, I'm not, the alarm bells aren't quite all ringing, but it's hard to climb up because teams they're 15-15. They're, the top of the West or even mid pack in the West has far better records than them. So they're in a tough spot for sure, and they'll probably end up in the play-in realistically, but I don't think it's like a total disaster when they subbed out CP for Beal and they've had like one game where all three have played. Or I guess they had one full game, and then Beal the second game, he rolled that ankle. I think that's what happened.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, so they need Beal back. They have no depth. The rest of the roster is all minimum guys. So
that in itself is a concern as well. Like, you can't handle like an injury. A lot of teams deal with injuries and can still be closer to their expected results from a win perspective than this. Like, they played with fire essentially. And I'd make the case that, like, I'd say we should be already there where depth is an important part of an NBA team. Maybe Phoenix felt like they couldn't win with what they had, and just like this is the only way that lifts them to a chance of winning. But I don't really think that's the case there.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Like, I don't think they have a great path, but clearly the path they chose was, let's get three guys who are really good offensively and try to out offense teams. So my point is just, you can't be too worried if those three players have only played one game together. Booker's also been out a while.
Yeah.
Durant's, I think, missed only a few games, but he's had some foot injuries. So, it's definitely a problem. But once that kind of started blowing up in the media about how bad it was, I just still felt like it was maybe a bit of an overreaction, but obviously way less likely chance they make an NBA Finals or Western Conference Finals than it was at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, agreed. So we have a couple questions here. This one came earlier from Matt. We'll talk about some more betting later, but Matt mentions he likes the Bourdain pick in the background, but he has a question regarding the Pelicans winning the Southwest Division at plus 200, or since we're talking about the Suns, any chance they can come back and win their division at plus 550. The Pelicans right now sit at 17-14 and are only a little bit behind Dallas Mavericks. They're one game back of the Dallas Mavericks for that division lead. Any insight into the Pelicans, first of all?
Yeah, sorry, I'm just pulling up the standings here, just getting the exact. Yeah, the Pelicans, I've definitely looked at that Pelicans division number. They maybe haven't quite pulled back as many games as I would have liked them to with this Kyrie injury. Both of them are coming back. The Pelicans have added a lot of depth. I actually do really like this team. Plus 200, yeah, I think that's pretty interesting, honestly. It's a number I actually texted someone that I was considering betting, and I actually do have, I think, plus 350 from the beginning of the season when I was fading Memphis. So I think it's pretty solid. I would say Dallas full strength is power rated above New Orleans and their game back. And New Orleans probably holds a little more injury risk, but a serious injury to one of Dallas's guys, they get shallower faster. So yeah, plus 200, I would say probably bet a little bit there. It's not something I'm running to bet, but probably slightly EV. I do like that team, and they're probably more likely to get injured, like I said, but with the depth they've gotten with Alvarado, with Trey Murphy, like, this might be a crazy thing to say. Brandon Ingram gets hurt. I guess he never gets hurt, but does it even matter? Did they lose a step? Could they be a little better? Who knows? Zion's obviously the worst one, because if Zion gets hurt, they're in a lot of trouble, and he's been hurt pretty much every season, but he's been pretty healthy, and he hasn't even been that good. So I definitely like that. In terms of Phoenix, probably not. I don't think I like Phoenix at plus 550. I would need to look at it. Plus 550 is a little bit hard to wrap my head around, but the Clippers are a substantially better team. Even full strength, I would rate the Clippers clearly better. And They need to jump 2 other teams. I would say the Lakers at full strength are right around as good as Phoenix, and the Kings are also good and have a 3 or a 2.5 game lead. So, you could see hypothetically them jumping all of these teams, but it's also not like the Warriors are out of it as well. These teams are just a lot of really good teams, and plus 550, it's not quite jumping out because that still is a lot of games to get to the Clippers, and the Clippers can win games with injuries as well, and Phoenix is gonna get hurt, and we've seen it when one guy's out, they really struggle.
Yeah, agreed. Another question here, since we're on the topic of Phoenix, and Phoenix plays in chat asks, would you rather have this big three they have right now, KD, Booker, and Bradley Beal, or would you rather have the core last year, which was CP3, Booker, KD, and Ayton? If I had to choose, I'd probably go with the latter as well and go with the core of last year. However, I think a trade made sense. I just never liked Bradley Beal's fit and the amount they had to get him for and the amount of money he makes on his contract.
Yeah, I think I'd probably just rather Beal, honestly. I think the more interesting question is, would you rather the Durant trade, which is probably no. I'd just give me Bridges and Thomas.
In hindsight, yeah. But at the time, I think it made sense.
Yeah, I don't disagree. But I like CP and Aiden. Aiden wanted out and he hates it and he's terrible. And CP is like on the way down. I love CP, but he's like if they had Chris Paul right now and Beal, Chris Paul would barely help. He's like barely a positive level player right now. So it's kind of like with Beal, at least they have some upside. I guess they traded a pick and are more stuck with his cap situation. So that's totally fair, but they're kind of screwed either way. So I might as well have a chance to, hit a tail outcome.
Fair enough.
Get some injury luck and going around.
All right. Enough on the Suns here. Let's transfer over to the Boston Celtics. They have been just fantastic this season. And we knew they'd be fantastic, but it's almost like it's still pretty remarkable to see. They're 23-6, top of the NBA standings. They won 8 of their last 10. They're on a 3-game win streak, and their next 2 games are against the Pistons and Raptors. Or next 3 are Pistons, Raptors, and Spurs. 3 very winnable games to keep this thing going. They're resting people for the Pistons game tonight. I think Jaylen Brown's out. I'm not sure if Tatum's resting as well.
Tatum's flying. Jaylen Brown's out.
Right, because I don't think you can rest both those guys at once. Anyways, they should be able to win.
No. But Brown's actually hurt, so I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know if it would technically count, but I feel like we actually haven't really seen one of these cases yet.
No, we haven't. The Lakers have kind of played around with it. They do like back-to-backs. They rest one of AD, then the other of LeBron in the other game.
I think they actually can rest both AD and LeBron because LeBron's grandfathered out of the rule because he's played like 37,000 minutes or something. It was some weird minutes limit or years in the league.
Okay. All these weird rules. Regardless, the Celtics, they're fantastic.
Yeah, I'm just trying
Can anybody keep up with this team? We thought it'd be the Bucks. The Bucks are like maybe the worst 23-8 team ever because like everybody's still saying like, wow, they don't look like the Bucks. The Bucks, their defense isn't great. Yet this team is just falling into a 23-8 record. Obviously, the Sixers are good. The Magic are slowly falling off. The Heat are getting better. But any team, like even the West, can anybody keep up with the Celtics team?
I honestly don't think so. I actually think that the Celtics are being under-talked about and even underpriced. I took them to win the title at plus 350 this week. I just don't really understand why they're not being talked about as like they're one of the best teams of the last 5 years. They're one of the best teams since the KD Warriors. This team is ridiculously good. Porzingis is an all-star level player. Drew has struggled a little bit offensively, but he's unbelievable.
Like, I mean, he's what they needed. He's exactly what they needed, what they wanted.
I feel like maybe it's that Tatum isn't quite, a top 5 player, and it's weird. We haven't really seen a team that's like super elite roll through the league without a top 5 guy. But this team is head and shoulders above anyone in the league. Even if you just look at their prices on Christmas Day, against a full-strength Lakers team, they were 4.5-point favorites on the road. That's like more than 6.5 on a neutral. So this team, like I've got them power rated 3 points better than any team in the league right now, and they're getting
crazy.
priced in the championship as, around similar prices to Denver, similar prices to Milwaukee. So yeah, this team is just ridiculous, and also they match up perfectly with pretty much every team in the league. The only one that's maybe a slight worry is the Bucks, because Horford matches up with Giannis, but Porzingis has always struggled with Giannis, and then everyone else is a bit small and a bit of a tough ask. But maybe they don't have a clear guy to cover Giannis, but they have like 6 guys who can cover Giannis. So I wouldn't worry about that. Then I think they match up awesome with Philly, because they don't really need to get to the rim, and they could abuse Joel in the pick and roll and get up a ton of threes. And then they could they would put Drew on Joel, and then have Kristaps just hang around the rim, and it would frustrate Joel a lot. I know he's been way better as a passer this year, but I still don't really believe in him quite as, that playoff threat, especially with the guys around him. He just doesn't have that good of a team around him. And then I think they match up awesome with the Nuggets. Again, similar as Joel, as they could put one of their smaller guys on Jokic, have KP hang around the rim. They could also go 2 bigs with Horford. They're just so malleable. They can really play any lineup. They have shooting everywhere. They have shooting off the bench. They're just so much better than every other team. And even, for example, right now I think they're like a 10.4 adjusted net on dunks and threes. No team's been a 10-plus adjusted net since the 2017 Warriors. So this team is just ridiculous. I would take them to win the title if you can get like plus 350 or better right now. They're just so loaded, and they can withstand injuries pretty easily. Like, they could have a playoff series without Brown, and it'll be tougher, but they'll be fine. Like, obviously if the Sixers lose Maxey, or even if Milwaukee loses Middleton, they are not winning anything without those guys. Versus Boston can take injuries, they can match up with anyone. They're just really, really, really good, and probably being a little bit undersold in the national media as not the clear finals favorite.
So if anybody does want to tail that Boston Celtics win championship, plus 380 at FanDuel is best available. Nice. A lot of books have 350, but plus 380 at FanDuel. My pushback on Boston, I think they're comfortably the best team in the NBA, is when it comes to the playoffs. Oh my God, I cannot trust Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. They have enough to and they did last year in the playoffs as well. They win games even when those two don't play particularly well. But my God, in like a 7-game series against Giannis, against Embiid, perhaps against Jokic, like that's going to matter a little bit. If Brown is turning over the ball every time he touches his left hand, and Tatum is like setting records for turnovers, and his jump shot's not falling, he's not getting to the rim, he's going back to his old habit, shooting in mid-range. That's if I'm a Celtics fan, well, Celtics fans don't feel concerned. They're just
I don't know if I agree with that. I talk to Celtics fans all the time, and I'm like, the Celtics are way better than everyone. They're going to roll through it, and they're like, oh my God, you don't know, like, Celtics always screw it up. We're going to screw it up. Yeah, I'm like, what are you talking? This team, okay. I get that pushback, and that's kind of the pushback I get every time I bring up how much better the Celtics are than everyone. Let's just conceptualize what they did this offseason. They essentially swapped out Marcus Smart, not a very good offensive player, really overrated defensively, and Grant Williams, who I like Grant Williams, but has recently got him benched in Dallas, who was not even in the rotation last year, for Kristaps Porzingis and Drew Holiday. Kristaps is probably a better player than Jaylen Brown is. And Drew might be a better player than Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown could be their 4th best player. Could be their 5th best player if you include Derek White, who's also having an all-star year. They're just so good everywhere. Their bench is great. Horford's still good. Hauser's great. Pritchard's great. Like, those guys come in and shoot. They have 0 players who come in and don't shoot, other than when Neemias Queta's in the rotation. So it just feels like people are thinking, oh, but like they always struggle in the playoffs. Okay, but they added 2 top 40 players for 2 borderline top 100 players. So, and Kristaps is spectacular offensively and has been amazing this year. So, yeah, I just think they're really loaded everywhere and a step above the Bucks or even Denver. I like Denver, but Denver has a lot of problems as well, really lacks depth. The Celtics are just, and I think if that's the matchup, tough matchup for Denver.
This comment sums up pretty well. I can't be objective with the Celtics because I have a hatred for them. However, I actually in the past years I've done the opposite. I have bought all the Boston Sox figuratively leading into the playoffs. Just I don't know if it's like me trying to get some
hedge.
So yeah, some good karma in a sense of where like, oh, nobody's beating this team when they're at their best. My goodness, they are an unstoppable force. Then it all crumbles, and I don't really care if I'm wrong. I can just victory lap the Celtics failing. But if they ever succeed, I'm like, I told you guys, this team is the best. Nobody was touching them. It was easy for them. Yeah, but I do prey on the downfall of the Boston Celtics. It's not a hatred that consumes me at all at all. But I do enjoy watching them lose in the playoffs, especially a series they should win. That's a fun time of year for myself because it seems to be a bit of a yearly theme. Okay, enough on the Celtics. Final thing, any betting that you got for us today? Last week on the show, we did have a winning pick. We had John Morant on the under on assists. That was that won by 1.5. Under 9.5. We got that one at 8 assists. But anything else to say? You talked about the Celtics championship, but anything else?
Yeah, I've got a couple here. I'm playing Kristaps under 2.5 threes as I talked him up. I 1.67. I think that's minus 150. Is that right?
Minus 150 under 2.5 threes for Porzingis.
Yeah,
that's available at DraftKings.
Yeah, let's go with that. And then let's see. So I've played a couple here. I think a couple have moved a little bit on me. No, let's pass here. Let's go DeMar DeRozan. Oof. Yeah, okay, that's fine. DeMar DeRozan under 4.5 rebounds, minus 105.
All right. Even better if you got ESPN bet, you get plus 105 on that one.
Nice. That's kind of what I was looking for as well.
All right. So 2 plays there. I would show it on screen, but we're having some technical difficulties. But it is Kristaps Porzingis under 2.5 3-pointers at minus 150. That's available at DraftKings. That's a lot of juice. So any number you'd play that up to, what would be the max you'd go for that one?
Yeah, I think I played like minus 159.
All right, so
160 is fine.
If you can't get down on DraftKings props, Bet365 has this at minus 155. I get access over there. DeMar DeRozan, we're going to take under 4.5 rebounds for plus 105 at ESPN Bet. Minus 105 you said was okay, but is there a lowest you'd go for that one?
Yeah, don't go worse than minus 105.
All right. It's out there. You guys can find that. As always, recommend line shopping. A tool like Betstamp helps you line shop in seconds. That's how I did it. Just behind the scenes here. It makes my life as a producer a lot easier as well when I'm finding these numbers. So make sure you check out betstamp.app and use our promo code in the description to sign up to any sports books if you want to have more outs to take advantage of perhaps another edge that ever turns up like the Mikal Bridges situation, or if you're just playing player props just like this one. All right. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. The week is not done here on the channel. I'll be back tomorrow morning with Pips at 9:45 a.m. Eastern time for Pick and Roll for more free picks. But if you enjoyed this one, you can also tune in every Thursday for this show at 2:30 p.m. Eastern time. Smash that like button if you did enjoy, and subscribe to keep up to date with tons of NBA betting content right here on the Board YouTube channel, the NBA content division of the Hammer Betting Network.